Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 60 of Screw the Commute podcast. We have truly the sexiest boss we have ever had on this show in 60 episodes, and she has proof that she's the sexiest. Her name is Heather Havenwood. I've known her for 300 years. She still only looks 12 years old. That sucks. But she's going to be up here in a minute. But I hope you didn't miss episode 59, the blown up guy, Brian Fleming. Let me tell you, the blown up guy is not some cute moniker. When I talk about Brian Fleming, I'm talking about a guy who was literally blown up in, I think, Afghanistan. Now, if you missed him, go back and check out his story and his comeback, and it's just freaking amazing. That's episode 59. Check it out some other time. All right, our sponsor for today is Screw the Commute private Facebook group, where you can interact with me, my staff, and with other great entrepreneurs and like-minded people. And it's a place where my staff and I put in training and business tips several times a week. And you can ask questions and you can get feedback on things that you're doing. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later, but you can check it out at screwthecommute.com/Facebook. Screwthecommute.com/Facebook. Also be in the show notes, episode 60. All right, let's get to the main event. Heather Ann Havenwood teaches coaches, experts, and service providers current online marketing and sales strategies to close the right clients anytime they want. She's regarded as a top authority on digital marketing, sales coaching, and online publishing business strategies. Heather Ann has been named the top 50 must-follow women entrepreneurs by Huffington Post. She's also been named, here you go, Chief Sexy Boss from her Amazon bestseller book, Sexy Boss, How Female Entrepreneurship is Changing the Rule Book and Beating the Big Boys. I guess that's me, the very big boys. All right. And lots of people, including myself, call her the wizard behind the curtain. Heather, are you ready to screw, Miss Sexy Boss?
Ready to screw
the commute.
I
don't want you to beat me on the head with some sexy boss book. That's the worst way to get knocked out, with a sexy boss.
That's not that bad, Tom. Come on, you've been knocked out with a lot less.
Well, at least I wasn't knocked up. All right.
Knocked up. Yeah. Wait, is this a show about sex?
Sexy bosses. It's a show about sexy bosses. We're changing the title. So.
Screw the commute. I have to share a story with that. I remember when I was working in corporate America back years ago, and I lived in Fort Worth, Texas, and I was living downtown Fort Worth, and where I worked was in downtown Dallas. And if you know, it sounds like it's not far, but it's far, like especially at 7:00 in the morning. And I remember having to leave like the house at like 6:30 in the morning to get there at 8.
Yikes.
And I had a stick shift. Yep. And it was like stop and go traffic.
Oh, yeah, that sucks.
Right? And then I had to dress up. And I remember one time I got there late. It was like 8:10 or 8:15. And they had this 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning meeting. And they were like, you're late. And I'm thinking to myself, I woke up at 5:45 in the morning to get here, you mofos, And I just remember like, this sucks. And I was not interested in moving to Dallas. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, they fired me after 3 months. But, I do remember I was like, screw this. This sucked. And I remember sometimes I would look at, the people to my left or to the right while we're all literally standing there on the freeway. And I'm going, because I was young. I was like 25, 26. I'm like, is this life?
It is for most people, yeah.
Is this like adulthood? Because this sucks. You know what I mean? Like there was a moment of like, why did my parents make it seem so cool to grow up? Because this sucks. So there's my little screw the commute story.
All right. Well, we're going to get into more of your work history a little bit later, but tell everybody what you're doing now.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I'm actually in a huge transition. But one of the things I've been focused on for 2018 is launching people's podcasts, launching brands podcasts. So it used to be when you and I first met, by the way, I want to give people the structure of that. You and I first met in like 02, 03,
Right.
04,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the National Speaker Association conference, one of the conferences in Orlando, I believe. And back then it was about having a presentation, you know, having a book, setting yourself as an expert. And nowadays, to me, you have to have a podcast. You got to have a book, you have a message, and you have to have your own show. That's just like baseline. So I help people publish their own shows and make AKA podcasting, but it's way more than a podcast. It really is a platform. So how do you actually publish a podcast? So I do that. I also help people get on other people's shows as a guest. And I have a book out called Power Guesting. I've been on over 450 shows as a guest. And I love that. That's 450 hours of the sexy boss out there in the world.
Just to get ready for this one, I might add. She was just practicing, so she finally get her chance on Screw the Commute.
Yeah. So that's what I'm creating right now. And that's what I'm up to.
I didn't know you had a book about it. What's where do you get that?
It's called Power Guesting. You can go to heatherhavenwood.com/Amazon, and all my books show up there. It actually redirects to Amazon. So it has my Sexy Boss Audible book, my physical book, the Kindle, and then it has a Power Guesting Kindle book, and then my 4 other books on dating, teaching men how to date women. So
you're teaching men how to do it. Well, that's probably makes sense because guys can't figure it out.
Yeah, but, you guys, can I share a story there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I'm in the middle of a personal injury case. I was hit, and so we're suing the insurance company. Whatever, you know.
That's by a boyfriend, you mean?
No. I was just staying at a red light, and the guy who was on weed hit me in a car. So personal injury case. Okay, no big deal. And part of the deposition, it was like an 8-hour deposition, and the insurance, I guess the insurance side lawyer is a woman, and she like went all over online and went through all my Facebook profile, my Amazon, everything. And she's bringing all this up, and she's like, did you write a book on, the game of dating and how to play it, or like book title? I'm like, yeah. I'm thinking to myself,
what's that got to do with it, right?
Yeah, look at my lawyer. I'm really wanting to be like, and what does this have to do with? So she keeps asking all these questions. Did you write the book? Did you write? I'm like, yeah. I'm looking at my lawyer, wanting to do like a smart ass comment back, but he's like, shh. Don't, So I'm like, yes. And then finally she looks at me. She's a female. She goes, so did you figure out the answer? And I go, to what? Well, did you figure out the answer to teach men how to really talk to women? I'm like, no, I'm still working on that. She's like, okay. I'm like, is that? She was like being funny, and I'm like, oh my God, there was this moment of this, insurance agent who was like, so did you find the answer? Did you fix all the men? I'm like, girlfriend, come on, please. She's just like, okay, that was funny.
Hey, do you know Cindy Cashman? She's from Texas.
Nope.
Cindy Cashman wrote the book, What Men Know About Women, and it's all blank.
Oh, that's the one?
Yes. Yeah. She's a friend of mine. They've sold millions and millions of copies.
Okay.
She sold the company out for millions. It's still selling. It just had its, I think, 25th anniversary. She sent me a copy.
It's true, right? That's why here's this insurance, very, very smart, intelligent insurance lawyer, and she just had to make this laugh. I mean, it was the position, so I find it funny. Anyway, go back to Screw the Commute.
Yeah. So tell us more about the job and how you got into it, what you were doing, and when. I mean, was there a transition to start your own business, or did you just stop cold turkey? How did that all play out for you?
For me, okay, I think everyone has their own story, right? Mine's very different, I think, than most. So what was kind of going on in my world? I was living in Fort Worth at the time, and I started working for a big company called Southwestern Bell Wireless, which turned to Singular, which is now AT&T. So big telecom at the time. It was like 1999, 2000. And I was working in the cell phone side. So I was B2B sales. So I was getting my, understanding of B2B sales. And I was thrown to the wolves, one of those things. Like, here's your desk. It's all metal. Here's your business cards, with just the name on it and an extension, one of those. and they said, don't be friends with the person on your left, or don't be friends with the person on your right, because they'll probably won't be here in 3 months, right? So it's like one of those things, you had 3 months to hit your quota, and if
or
you didn't,
you won't be here in 3 months.
Right.
One or the other.
And at first I wanted to be besties with the people next to me. And then I quickly realized you barely say hello. Your name is Tom, and I don't want to know you because you might not be here. So you just learned quickly how to that environment. And I did actually very well. I was there for 4 years, believe it or not. In that world, that's a long time. You know, I got to a point where they gave me this thing called a salary after 3 years. Like, you know, after that, it was 100% commission. Okay. Yeah. So I got a salary, and that's a big deal in that space. And then I also got an assistant. Here's the point. Okay. So the point is that I was number one. I actually ended up being number one in the country out of 10,000 reps.
Wow.
And my last year, and I got the little call that said this, and it really stung me. It was my boss. I answered the phone. Her name was Mary. And she said, I just left the offices of Dallas, and we had the annual meeting with all bosses, everyone there, and you're number one in the country out of everybody. Now, I want to stop there for a second because this is a really pinnacle point. Usually you would think, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah,
Your boss
right.
would be excited. Everyone would throw a party for you. And I want to give people a reality check.
Okay.
Because what I'm about to say is I always get the same question from anyone who interviews me is, well, why? That makes no sense. I'm a woman, and I'm a 25-year-old woman at the time. And the average age of people that were in my office were men that were 42. I wasn't supposed to be successful.
Uh-huh.
I was set up for failure. They didn't want me to be there. They did everything in their power to have me not win. They never helped me. I was on my own. So when I got this call, like, you're number one in the country by numbers, my response was, I'm sorry. Her response was, I know, I don't think you deserve it. Now, and then 2 months later, they fired me.
Wow.
Now, every time I get people and they argue with me, that makes no sense. You must have done something wrong. Yeah, it's called being a woman in corporate America in 1999. It didn't make sense. I was supposed to be an assistant. I was supposed to be a customer service girl. I was supposed to be something else. I wasn't supposed to beat the big boys. You're not supposed to beat the big boys when you're 25, hot blonde. That's not your job.
This is really a sexy story, I'm telling you.
Well, it's a important story. That's my book, Beating the Big Boys.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh, I got fired, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I took some time off. And this is where I got into what I'm doing today. And you'll appreciate this story, Tom, because you know what this is like. I'm sitting there with my girlfriend about 3 months afterwards, not getting a job, because all my friends are like, just go get another corporate job, right? I'm like, nope, not doing that. And then I see the infomercial, Fred Rui, American Cash Flow Institute.
Okay.
You know them, right? Don't you know Fred?
Well, I saw it then too, probably.
Yeah. Well, I think I saw you at the American Cash Flow event or something like that.
I don't think so, no.
No. Okay. So I saw this infomercial, American Cash Flow Institute, and it was like, hi, my name is Fred Rui. Do you want to control your life? Do you want to make money? And I'm like, yeah. Come to the seminar tomorrow at 1:00 and at the Dallas Arboretum. I'm like, yeah. Right. So I'm writing this down, 1:00 seminar Monday. And I go there by myself, and I sit there, and I'm this, presentation. They're pitching me on this $3,000 seminar that's coming next week. And it's going to change your life. And if you do it, then you're going to make all this money, and your whole life is going to alter. And I'm like, yeah. Right. So I, of course, don't have $3,000 at the time on my credit card. However, this is one of those moments I was ecstatic I was a female when they said, and for your spouse, it's only $1,000. Sweet. So I nudged the stranger next to me, Bill, Bob, Bo, Jerry, don't know. And I said, can I be your wife? And he said, sure. So I said, great. So we went to the back, and I'm like, I'm his wife. And they're like, yeah, you're lying, but we'll still take your grants,
Right.
give you a card. It still works. Look at that. Sign the paperwork. We still made money. Awesome. And the people behind the scenes, the people running the events, they're the ones that said, you're different. What's going on with you? I ended up working for Dynatech. That was Dynatech.
Oh,
And
I
I
remember
started-
Dynatech.
Yeah. So I actually moved to Orlando. Dynatech is the one that ran American Cash Flow Institute, Robert Allen Institute, so many more, Wise Trade, all this. Forex made it easy. They ran events. And so I moved to Orlando, and that's how I got in this godforsaken business. basically.
Now, they took a lot of heat for something. I don't remember what it was, right? They're no longer.
Well, that was just the turn of the century. So it's like 2008, 2009, they were really focused on direct mail and infomercials and real estate, and the real estate market went to hell. So Larry Pino did pull the plug on Dante, which was the right move. It was the right move. But that's where I learned speaking, presentation, sales from the stage, right? All that. That's where I learned about NSA. That's where I learned about how to sell from the back of the room, all those things that you talk about and you teach. That's where I learned, is from traveling the country. And that's how I became a thing called 1099 at the time. I didn't know what that was either. What do you mean W-2? What? Where's my W-2? I'm like, you're a 1099. I'm like, what's that? Well, you have to get this thing called LLC in a business. So I didn't know what that was. And that's how I started. And then I started consulting, like, oh, you work for Dynatech. They're amazing. If I pay you, will you teach me how to speak from stage? Okay, boom. So that's how I got into this business. It was kind of like a moment of, oh, I'm a 1099. What's a 1099?
All right, but you've worked with a lot of people that didn't come that route. So what advice would you give somebody that's in that cubicle, hasn't been fired? And it's a different atmosphere nowadays. I mean, women are much more successful and appreciated. But if they want out, they want to do what you do, what would you suggest?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, have a message. What actually do you want to do? What's your message that you want to bring to the forefront or the marketplace? Whatever that is. If you want to do an e-commerce store still, what's your mission? What's your message? What are you doing it for? That's a key piece, because if you're just like, well, I just want to get out of cubicle, that's not gonna drive you past the hurdles. It's not going to drive you past the mountains.
You mean there's hurdles?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know.
Just saying I want out of cubicle doesn't mean anything. Like right now, I'm sitting in my office. I'm sitting in my cubicle, right? So going from, I'm not going to be a cubicle forever to like, now you're in your office in your home cubicle, or maybe I do co-working. I actually pay now to go to co-working spaces to be in a cubicle because I want to be around people. It's not about the cubicle. So you have to really make sure, what are you doing and why? Is it a lifestyle? Is it freedom and ease? Because I will say this, the moment I became 1099, I've never worked so hard in my life. Go ahead
and explain that to people that are new and don't know, and they don't know what 1099 is.
So 1099 means you're a contractor. So W-2, there's this thing called W-2, right? And that's the beauty of corporations. They do all your taxes and you get your money, and all these line items, they deal with all your taxes for you, right? When you're 1099, you get all the money. And into the year, you've got to deal with accountants and, deductions and all that. But it's a consulting, basically. It's some kind of level of consulting. So freelancing, consulting, you get all the money, but you don't really get all the money. You have to really make sure and go, oh, there's this thing called taxes in the IRS and stuff like that. So you have to like think things through. When you're a W-2, they teach you how to they don't teach you how to fish. They just feed you. They don't really teach you how to survive and thrive in business.
Did you get a big tax bill surprise that first year because you didn't really know what was going on?
Yeah, I still do. But I did meet a company at FinCon this year, which I'm going to be reaching out, called B-Solo, B-S-O-L-O. It's an incubator that it was started by women that Fidelity is marketing. And what's beautiful about B-Solo is that it takes out money from income every single time you get income from a client, let's say, and they put it in a different savings account for you, like 10% or 15%, like a W-2 does automatically. So at the end of the year, you're like, oh, I have this money to pay my taxes. It's actually a brilliant idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea, because so many people think, oh, man, this is great. And then they get the tax
you're like,
bill.
oh, those taxes. What do you mean I have $5,000? I don't understand. So, that's happened. And, I have what I call my check that goes to the IRS every single month. And it's what I call the perpetuity until I die check. It just like goes and goes and goes and goes. And I just send the money. But I learned the hard way. I used to wait until the end of the year for my tax bill. Now I just send the money all the time.
So what do you do the most of when you help your clients? What do most people come to you for?
Strategy. So I work with them on strategy and what are the missing elements that they're not doing. So one of my clients that I just love dearly, she is now selling her business. So when she started working with me, January this year, 2018, she had never really hit more than $250,000 in revenue. As of yesterday, she was already over about $1 million. She's like 975, right? So, and that's within 10 months we moved her, and it was just simple strategies.
That was from one podcast episode.
No, no. It was a couple of things, and then she now is selling her business for a lot.
Yeah.
Money, because people now buy that kind of traffic and they buy that revenue. So she's now selling the business, and we've been in conversation for a couple of weeks about what that looks like, and she's officially pulled the button on that. So now she's selling the business. So that's what's possible. That's just one client that I currently work with.
I know the thing you're doing with podcasts. What are you doing for people with this? Because I after having gone through this, I know there's a million details to do a good podcast. So what are you helping them with podcasts?
So as you know, Tom, podcasting is easy. It's just a crap load of moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key. And I tell people that you've got to have a right brand. You already have a great audience. You already have a great brand. So for you had a huge leverage. A lot of people come to me, they don't even have that. Right. So to really look at the brand and the market, the message, and what are they doing, and making sure it's going to add value to their current business model. The next thing is there's a ton of moving parts. There's a couple things. One is there's a launch process. With my company, it takes 6 weeks from zero to complete launch. After that, you can work with our company to do podcast marketing. That's not just editing. Editing is one piece, and there's podcast marketing. So podcast marketing is the whole other strategy, things that you and I were doing earlier in Instagram and live. Podcast marketing strategy. And the next level of that is like my show is nationally syndicated radio. So I actually now I'm on 17 different stations. I'm on iHeart, I'm on Spotify, I'm on TuneIn, and then what I call regular radio. Now, people always ask me, why would you do that? I'm like, well, does Rush Limbaugh do that? How's that going for him? How's Howard Stern? Does that go? Joel Osteen, have you been to his page lately? He's got over 100 radio stations. Dave Ramsey, I met him this last weekend in FinCon. He's a $700 million company. He's on radio. And if it works for him, it'll work for me. So right. I think that people don't realize the power of podcasting is you can leverage it into other modalities. I do Roku, of course, YouTube, and then you repurpose it. So podcasting is a content marketing strategy and a brand asset. And that's what I work with clients on, is like, how do you launch this new brand asset, and then how do you leverage it from a content marketing perspective across the internet?
Yeah, and I bragged against it for years because nobody was making any money in those days. I mean, they were just doing it as an ego trip. But now, especially with the advent of automobiles being able to instantly play your podcast, just talk to your dashboard, and actually podcasting listenership has exceeded XM satellite radio, and it's free. So the listenership is going crazy, and people are really starting to monetize it now. So yeah, it's a perfect time to get into the podcasting. And then you help them get on other shows, right?
Yeah, we also have a component where we help people get on other people's shows as well. They actually work with me because everyone wants to be a star, right? But not everyone can be. That's why they have American Voice and America Got Talent. They have to go through a process to who actually wins, because not everyone is really great at podcasting, and they're not great at sharing their personal story. What is their personal story? What's their origin story? What is their brand? I don't know if you've had this or not yet, Tom. You probably have not, because you have so many great friends, but I've had some really bad interviews.
Yeah, I've been fortunate because a lot of my crowd is professional speakers, so they're very glib.
Yeah, there's been a good handful that I literally got off the show and I wanted to just pass out, because it was like pulling a huge dead truck, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. If I have to ask this guy one word answers, one sentence, what's your story? I'm in business. Okay, what's your business about? We sell stuff online. Oh my God, I gotta go, So I think that learning how to share your personal story, learning how to, in a conversation, not a monologue, it's a dialogue, All those things, you have to like set people up for that. It's not automatic. Just because they're a business owner doesn't mean that that's what they know how to do.
Yeah, and I got to be extra careful with it because I number my episodes and tease future episodes of who's going to be on. If they suck, that kind of messes that up.
So if I was consulting you, which I'm not, but if I was, I would say, don't do that. And I stopped doing that. Here's another reason why. Again, you can do what you want, but I'll just tell you people who like my view of that particular thing. So the reason why I stopped numbering and why I tell my clients don't number is because podcasts are viewed as evergreen. They are very viewed as it's okay to go back 6 months and listen to a podcast show. It's not okay to go listen to your favorite news show 6 months ago.
Right.
Unless you're getting some kind of content specifically. But like last week, if you watch Hannity or if you watch Anderson Cooper last week, why would you do that? Just watch it now, because they look at it as a particular way. But in podcasting, we look at it as evergreen. Mm-hmm. And so it's okay to go back to Tom Antion's Screw the Commute 6 months ago. So I'm probably going to learn something because it's content some way that probably still valid today. So it's an evergreen conversation. The other thing is, so the brain, if you look at numbers, brain will like, oh, it's old, when it's probably not. So there's that. And also I learned quickly when I first started doing my own show, this was during the election, 2016 election. And I mean, it was hard not to talk about it.
Yeah, but your show might not play till long after it's done, right?
That's what happened. So some of my shows went out and it was like, well, tonight or next week is the, debate too between Hillary and Trump, and I'm like, oh, and it was like 3 weeks later, it's already done. So I learned it's not Christmas, it's not summer, it's not winter, it's not fall, not in Texas. It's just like, there is no time. So I've learned those kinds of things, and those are the kinds of things I teach the clients because content marketing is that. That's what you want. You want evergreen content online.
Yeah, and that's only just a tiny fraction of the things I know you teach people because I know the stuff I had to learn to do this. Now, let me ask you: Have you ever gotten screwed over in business? I know you got kind of screwed over in the corporate world, which is normal, but
we don't have enough time to talk about how I got screwed over in business. And I say that in a loving way. People question that too. That's like saying, have you ever had a break up in a relationship that hurt? If you're gonna love, you're probably gonna love, and this might hurt. So
well, the question is, what did you do about it?
Well, my book Sexy Boss is about my personal story of how I was in business with a speaker who came to me. He was really good at investing real estate, and he came to me and said, hey, this whole like investing real estate thing is great, but I want to do this thing called speaking and like have products in the back of the room. I don't know how to do that, but you do. Let's team up. So we became 50-50 partners, and our business went from $0 to $1 million in the first year, and that was in 2004-05. And right at the boom of the market, and I was in Florida, and that business is still viable today, still has that today. However, he screwed me over in business. I went to a Matt Basek seminar in Atlanta and came back, and all the merchant accounts had changed. The bank accounts had been cleaned out. Right. Everything was gone, literally in a 24-hour period. Wiped out. My house went into foreclosure within a week. Oh. And I had to file full bankruptcy within 6 months. So I was completely broke, and I ended up moving out of my house and living out of people's, houses, garages, cars, extra bedrooms for about 2-3 years until I moved to Austin. So, yeah.
Well, crazy. That's a lesson in itself, because I've been very much against partnerships because it's easy to get into them, but it can go really, really south of you. Well, that's obviously, that, but it can be just deadly to get out. And even if somebody is a good partner and they die, then what? If you haven't figured it out ahead of time, now you're dealing with their relatives and who might be total idiots, right. or clueless, right. or even right. if they're good intentioned, they could be clueless. So you got to massively get a big kick-ass partnership agreement written by an attorney that knows partnership agreements before you even think about this, because it's just so easy to say, oh, I need this help. You're good at that. I'm good at that. Let's do it. And then boom, later on you're sleeping in your car. Right? All right. So what do you like best about working for yourself?
Well, the number one thing I like working for myself is because it's working for myself. Meaning, if I have an idea, if I have an idea that I can basically execute it for myself, by myself, or with a team. I think that's number one thing. However, there's a caveat to that. I think that as a woman, and I find this a lot with women entrepreneurs, is we're constantly looking for permission, validation, and approval. And the challenge with that is that men don't. So if you shared an idea with me, what you're looking for is me to add to that idea or you to tweak that idea to make it like even better.
Mm-hmm.
But when women share an idea, they're looking for approval, validation, or acceptance. Right?
So I know that's a striking generality. You saying that's a weakness? That's a good thing?
It's a weakness for women. It's a weakness for women, because just because you have an idea and you share it with somebody and they don't like it, approve it, or permission doesn't mean that it's not a bad idea.
Or that's
You
not
just
a
are
good,
sharing.
yeah.
You're sharing it with the person that doesn't agree with it, not even listening or whatever. So part of the challenge is, and part of the thing to overcome is to say, this is an idea that I have and be really congruent with that, and then choose to move forward on that. So I always think of that movie, Will Smith, The Pursuit of Happiness. Some people saw that movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a beautiful story. It's a true story. And how he had an idea and he went after it, and everyone along the way, including his own wife who left him, said, "You're crazy. This is stupid. This is nuts. Stop." And he was so persistent of like, no, I'm going to have this happen. And he ended up being a multimillionaire, right, to this day. So I think that that's part of the process. However, women were not trained that way in a social level at a very early age. So I'm just sharing my own personal challenge I have with that. I think that women have that as well. It's okay for men to go out there and fail. It's not okay for women. So when I was going through my bankruptcy and pretty much the failure, something happened a couple times to me, but this is a great example. This would never have happened to a man. I'm sitting there in an airport, and I'm sharing my story with this guy, nice gentleman, and he taps me on the knee and says, "Okay, honey, you're pretty. You'll just get married. Just go get married." Like I had so many people say to me, like, just, okay, like you got the business, you failed. Like, okay, can you stop doing that and just go get married? My mom called me and said, "Honey, I found a job for you in Hope, Arkansas. It makes $8 an hour with an assistant manufacturing plant." Like, serious, my uncle called me and said, "Your mom's worried about you because you did a whole entrepreneur thing and now you've failed. So can you just go get married?" Like, people have a particular view. They would never say that to a guy, ever. They would never say that. But for a woman, it's like, oh, okay, this whole entrepreneur thing, that's really cute and pretty and all. Like, you need to go get married now. So those are the kinds of things that I know I'm bringing very gender-based, but I'm bringing it up because it's what women deal with.
It's reality, yeah. So yeah. Is it something you actually work with women on, about the approval thing, that they don't need that approval from anybody else?
Yes, I work with them on listening to themselves and validating their own ideas and sharing in such a way where they might be getting some brainstorming on, or like expansion of, but not necessarily, is this okay? And being aware of that. I wasn't aware of that for years. I wasn't even aware that I did that until, recently, but I do that all the time.
Well, it's still important to research and not go forward on every harebrained crazy idea too. So you don't want to go overboard and just run off on everything that has no chance in hell of working, because there's research tools out there that can help them evaluate the ideas and not ask for permission.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So tell everybody how they could work with you. Tell them about your. Do you have a program on podcasting, or is it one-on-one? Is it all customized? What's the deal?
So I have 3 ways of working with me. Number 1 is a full-on launch process. And so you have to reach out to me and we can have a conversation what it looks like. There's a huge range of the pricing, depending if you already have a brand, they already have an audience like yourself, or someone who's coming to me and they have nothing, right? So there's a big difference there from work perspective, but we can do it either way. There's that, number 1. Number 2 is guesting. Like, okay, I want to be on other people's shows. How do I do that? So I work with them in that. That's number 2. Number 3 service is I have a show and it's going okay, kind of. I don't know. We don't have many people. How do I market that show? then you can come to me. We can have a consultative process, or we actually do the service for you. So it just depends on what you want to do.
All right. And we're going to have links to the show notes, everybody, for all the stuff she's got available. And this is episode 60. So this would be screwthecommute.com/60 to see all the stuff that Heather has available. And we're going to break for a quick message from our sponsor. And when we come back, we're going to have Heather tell us what's a typical day look like for her. And I'm afraid to ask that because I know her and how she stays motivated. So we'll be right back. But hey, everybody, Screw the Commute private Facebook group is where you can interact with me, my whole staff, and with other great entrepreneurs and like-minded people. It's a place where my staff and I put in training and business tips several times a week. So it's really, really dirt cheap to get access to all of us. And you can ask questions and get feedback on things you're doing. I'll give you quick tips that have made and saved me tons of money over more than 40 years in formal business. And really, I was an entrepreneur since I was about 10 years old. But anyway, we got in-depth postings on all kinds of business topics. So check it out in the show notes at screwthecommute.com/Facebook, screwthecommute.com/Facebook. And of course, also with Heather stuff at screwthecommute.com/60 for this episode's show notes. So let's get back to our super duper guest, Heather Havenwood, the sexiest boss that's ever been on Screw the Commute. So what's a typical day look like for you, Heather? I see your Facebook stories, and it's always a beautiful, serene thing, and then it flips to some movie star with a lot of cleavage. What's up with that?
That's an interesting view, Tom. Well, I work from home, as you know, and you do too. And I love your stories. I love watching your puppies. I love puppies. So I work from home, and I live in the middle of downtown Austin. So I kind of I've been doing this more and more. I really try to show people like what my life looks like. I work out every day. I do meditation every day. And then I either am at home in my studio here, or lately I've been doing a co-working.
Wait a minute. Did you, let me back up a second.
Sure.
Weren't you in some competitive bodybuilding or something or not?
Yes, I was, and I am. I'm actually going back into that. Yes. So I was, I did competition, and then I got in the car wreck, the one that we're suing, and I had to stop for a while, and now I'm actually right back in it. Yeah. Okay. So I had to stop for a while, and I'm now back in. So right now I'm on 2 days, and I have my full diet. I got my trainer. She's kicking my booty. So lately I have been starting to post again about my workout schedule and doing 2 days and my food regimen and all that stuff.
Good. All right. So what time do you get up?
So I get up around 6:45, 6:30. I live in Barton Springs, so I'm down by the water doing a meditation around 7:15. I do yoga for 10 minutes, like a vinyasa kind of yoga to open the body for about 10 minutes.
Outside or when you get back in the house? Yeah.
Outside. Yeah. Outside the elements. And then I do a meditation for 10 minutes. And then I do a reading. I'll do a book I'm reading, Lee Meltier, I'm actually reading right now, as well as The Alchemist. So I'll read something spiritual for about 10 minutes. And then I come back, I have breakfast. I'm real big on my Alexa now, which cracks me up. I do the Alexa, what's my news briefing? And then she gives me the whole rundown of the day. And then I get dressed. I always make sure I get dressed. It sounds funny, but when you first start working for yourself at home, you're like, this is sweet. I can be in my pajamas all day. I'm like, no, you gotta get dressed. So I do get dressed, and then I work, and I usually go work out between 4 and 5, or I go late, like 7 o'clock, depending on the day.
All right. So you're naked when you do your meditation. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of.
The neighbors, I mean, it's progressive.
It is Barton Springs, if you know the area.
I don't.
People are walking around pretty much naked. So it's actually
naked. It's actually not
okay.
Naked, right?
It's actually okay to be topless there for women.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. Like, if you knew what I was talking about, what I mean by people are naked, they're pretty much running around naked, except that women usually do have tops, but it is actually legal for women to be topless. So I could actually be topless and be completely.
But wait a second. You said naked, right? Instead of naked?
Well, I'm Texas, naked.
You're Texas, it's naked. Okay.
Naked. So men do wear pants and all that, but in that area, it's all about in the water and being y'all very yogi-ish. So there's people, walking around in Speedos and very tiny little things.
You never show that on your Facebook Live.
Well, I don't, because I feel like it's their personal, private life. I don't want to be like
blur their face.
Yes. But yeah, technically in Barton Springs, the city ordinance, you can be topless. Women can be topless.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
Yeah. So, all right. So then, what in the evenings? Because the other times I see you, you're at a bar with a Dallas Cowboys game on.
I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan, so yes, you'll see me. Right now it's Cowboy season, so Sundays or Saturdays, whenever they play, usually Sundays or Mondays, I will be someplace watching the game with family and friends. I'm a big, huge, come on.
Have you ever been to a rodeo?
I have been to rodeo, yeah.
I was down there one time, and I swear they had scissors at the front door, and they were gonna cut my tie off when I walked into the place. Did you ever hear of that?
Because of the were you in a cowboy place?
I guess. I don't know.
That makes sense. They would do that. I mean, it depends on the place. So where I live near the Broken Spoke, which has been here for 60 years, and they probably would do that. You walk in there, and it's like going back into 1975. They have not updated it. The ceilings are really low. So if you're 6'7" or 6'5", you hit the ceilings.
Is there young people that go, or is it?
Everyone there is old. It's like the woman who's at the front, she tells you stories of how, the 1970s. It's kind of like where Willie, you know Willie, who Willie is, right? Willie.
From NSA?
No, Willie.
I thought you were talking about Willie Jolly.
Willie Nelson.
Oh, Willie Nelson. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Nelson in Austin. And so that's kind of the place he goes to.
Ah, okay. I get it.
All his compadres go there.
All right. So how do you stay motivated working for yourself? Do you have any employees?
I don't have employees. Everyone's 1099. I do not. I'm not. How do I say motivated? I understand your question.
Yeah, it was a pretty simple question.
I know. I don't know how to answer it other than just.
That's just you. It seems like it's just you internally.
It is just me. I mean, there was a period about 2 years ago, I had all these people working for me. I had a group of 5, and I'll probably end up going back to that. It's not what I enjoy. I'm not very good. I don't like the managing style. I actually was trying to hire someone to manage them for me because it's not my thing. I'm okay with it. I'm just not very good at it. I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm not very good at the whole training and management thing. So as far as motivation, it's a weird question for me because it's not about a motivation piece for me. I think that you are similar. It's just what you do.
Yeah. I mean, it's just automatic with me after all these years. I don't even think about it.
Motivate myself to go to the gym. There's no motivation to go to the gym. It's kind of like you just go. That's what you're supposed to. You're just going to the gym. That's just what you do. Oh, you have to eat. It's just what you do. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily I gotta motivate myself to go to the gym. No, you're just okay, now look at the schedule. It's time to go to the gym. I look at this is what I'm doing today. I'm doing glutes. I follow the regimen. I kick ass. I feel good about it, and I leave. I don't necessarily have to motivate myself.
I think I forgot to ask you what's the worst part about working for yourself. Did I ask you that? I can't remember.
You have not asked. That's a great question. What's the worst thing? You can get distracted, but I think that the thing here's the worst thing: community. I do kind of miss the water cooler kind of thing, That's
interesting you say that, because in a lot of episodes I told people if they miss it, just go buy a water cooler and stand next to it and gossip to yourself, and then you'll be right back in the corporate world.
Well, I co-work here. There's a lot of co-working here, and there's a ton of co-working spaces here, and I love it because it's kind of a community, and it has that feel. So they have a kitchen, they have a huge kitchen. So I go to the kitchen, get my coffee, and there's people in there eating lunch. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? And like, oh, my kids are doing well. That's good. Kind of creates a community. They're not my boss or they don't work for me, but it creates a community of people where you're not sitting there by myself versus like going to Starbucks where, there's a bunch of people around you, but you don't talk to them, you don't like have a conversation with these people. But in a co-working space, it's the same people over and over again. And so there is a community like, oh, how are you? And, oh, I like your dress. That's nice. Nice to see you.
I'm totally opposite. I'm so happy to sit. I got a 7,500 square foot house and a 4,000 square foot office next door. And I'm by myself all day long. I just love it. I got my dogs. I got 2 German Shepherds, and that's all I need. I like them a lot more than a lot of people, I got to tell you.
I totally understand that. I will say.
You have a pet? Because I know you love animals.
I will say that the reason I started co-working is because my dog died.
Oh, geez.
I had my dog for 17 years.
Oh, my God.
So after my dog died, and I lost a community of the dog walking community, which is,
Right.
you walk outside, hey, how are you? I kind of had my social hour during the dog walking community. Now I don't have that. And I'm not interested in getting a dog right now because I might be doing some traveling. But I lost that. And so one of the things I was like, I should co-work. So now the co-working kind of fills that gap.
How far is it from your house?
0.5 miles.
Oh, you're commuting again. I cannot believe it. We have to can the whole interview now.
That's not
You're
a commute.
cheating.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's not a commute. That's more just like oh, look. Yeah, it's not a commute.
All right. So what parting thoughts do you have for any of we call them screwballs that listen to this show? If they're thinking about, they really want to do this, what should they do? What's their first step to get the heck out of that corporate thing and get moving and be like the sexy boss?
So I'll leave you with a quote that someone gave to me many moons ago that I have here on my board. I stare at it all the time. So I'm just going to share it. And I think it really helped me move through some things. And that is, never keep anyone in my life that's not part of my fan club. It's a really beautiful.
That's cute. Yeah.
It's like sometimes, and Dan Kennedy, this is not the person who said, Dan Kennedy talks about it too. He's like, there are people in your life that are, you shouldn't talk about business with, or you shouldn't share that beautiful idea with. They're the person you might have a cocktail with or go watch the game with, but that's pretty as far as the conversation goes. Like you got to place your friends, quote unquote, people in your life where they really are. Are they really in your fan club? Or are they just associates, or are they just family that you have to deal with twice a year? So that's a big one. And I had to really decipher where people landed, for me.
So give me that quote again.
Never keep anyone in my life that's not part of my fan club.
Okay. Got it. So in your life, though, that's what I'm questioning, like, because you can have acquaintances, but they're not really technically in your life that you share stuff with, right?
Right. I have 5,000 friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. They're not in my life, They're not really in my life. Like, so I know them and they see what I want them to see. But there's a difference between them and saying, hey, I have this really amazing idea and I really want to create it. And will you help me co-create it with me? I mean, they're not probably going to do that, right?
That's for sure. Yeah.
I think that's the big difference. And you have to make sure, like for you, I'd reach out to you and like, hey, I have this idea. Will you like help me, like kind of articulate it? Because I know who you are and I know your mindset.
And you know what I would say? Yeah, well, we need to go down to, where do you live, Bakersfield? What is it? Barton Springs, and sit there by the water so I can watch all the topless people, which gives me the inspiration to help you, see.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, so that's what I mean by don't keep people in your life that's not part of your fan club.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Heather, for taking the time to share. I mean, 450 interviews, that's pretty darn good for this year. Yeah, so... how many did you do the year before that?
Well, I've done 450 since June of 2015.
Yeah, that is a lot. I mean, I've done 1,000 over my lifetime, but not that many all at one time. That's for sure. So, So anyway, folks, check out all the great stuff she has. She's got more than the podcast stuff for sure, because she's been around and creating some great stuff, the sexy boss stuff, especially you ladies out there that want some inspiration that you would never get from me. I can tell you that. She can handle it for you. And this is episode 60. So check out all her stuff at screwthecommute.com/60. And watch for the next episode, which is 61. This is my weekly Monday in-depth training session. This Monday is going to be on outsourcing, how to get others to do your work for you for I've paid as little as $1.70 an hour with no payroll taxes. In other words, they would have been 1099, but they're in another country. But I got to tell you, if you don't know the cultural differences, you're most likely going to fail miserably with this, like I did, until I learned how to relate to those people that I outsource to. So check out episode 61. Please subscribe and review. If you're new to podcasts, we've got instructions on how to do that at screwthecommute.com. Thanks again to Heather. Check out her stuff in the show notes, and I'll catch y'all on the next episode. See you later.